from stories across the globe to stories here at home. This is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
A very good evening. I am Dishan Virakone, and we start off by taking a look at your top stories for tonight.
Credit at relief interest rates to every family in the festive season. The COVID patient who fled from the Valisara hospital was nabbed in Maradana. The highest number of 785 fully recovered COVID-19 patients returned to their homes today. The Palagoda Fish Trading Complex reopens after 55 days. His Eminence the Archbishop commends the government on providing relief to families affected by the Easter attack. In future development programs, prominence is to be given to projects which provide benefits to a majority of the people.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. Taking a look at local news first. The government has decided to provide low-interest loans for every family in view of the upcoming Christmas and New Year. The loans are expected to be provided under three categories. Those with a monthly income of 50,000 rupees or beyond will be able to obtain a loan of 50,000 rupees. Those who earn a monthly income between 25,000 rupees and 50,000 rupees will be provided a loan worth of 25,000 rupees. Those with a monthly income below 25,000 rupees will accordingly be able to take a loan of 10,000 rupees. The loans are being provided by the Bank of Ceylon, the People's Bank, the National Savings Bank, the Regional Development Bank and the Samurdhi Bank. Employees of private and public sectors who wish to receive supplementary financial assistance are requested to inform their respective superiors. Once the head of the institution submits the certified list of employees to the State Bank closest to the workplace, the relevant branch will credit the amount to the employees' accounts without delay. The Prime Minister's Media Division says the loans must be repaid within 10 months. An interest rate of 0.625% will be levied. The loans will be deducted from the employee's salary between January and October next year. The Department of Pensions and the Samurdhi banks have been entrusted the task of providing the loans to government pensioners and Samurdhi beneficiaries. Those who are engaged in services using three-wheelers, school vans and also bus owners and private bus employees are able to apply for loans by presenting their national identity cards to the state banks where they maintain accounts. Those who do not belong to these categories but who engage in daily employment and maintain accounts in state banks are also eligible to apply. The objective of the government is to fully restore the economy and people's lives destabilized in the face of the COVID-19 challenge and to fully restore the condition in the upcoming year. The government recalls the immense commitments of the working class and the business community to gradually restore the fields including export, tourism, construction and other products and services stalled during the lockdown period of 2 months. The health, security, police and state services have extended immense contributions in this regard. The government communique added that as a result, the country was able to enter a period of revival in the agricultural and industrial sectors in 2020. As a result, the necessary food supplies for the maintenance of urban living was able to be fulfilled. The PMD adds that the supplementary financial facilities have been planned as a source of encouragement to the people who have assisted in the restoration procedure.
In the meantime, the epidemiology unit says the highest number of 785 fully recovered COVID-19 patients returned to their homes today. The number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country has increased up to 25,652. 97 fully recovered COVID-19 patients who were receiving treatments at the COVID-19 treatment centers in Polonnaru district were discharged today. They have been identified as residents of Colombo, Anuradhapura and Munaragala districts. 8,662 fully cured COVID-19 patients have left hospitals since the beginning of this month until today. The highest number of 785 fully recovered COVID-19 patients returned to their homes today. Another 326 corona patients were identified in the island today. Out of this number, all of them were close associates of the patients in the Palagoda cluster. The police says the COVID-19 patient who has escaped from the chest hospital in Valsara while undergoing treatment was found in Maradana today. He was hospitalized for treatment of tuberculosis. Police media spokesman and DIG Ajit Rohana says that it has been established that he had given a false address in Maradana when admitting to the hospital. Further investigations have revealed that he was a resident of Grand Pass, Colombo. Director of the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital, Dr. G. Vijay Surya, says that a somewhat decline is being witnessed in the number of patient arrivals at the hospital. He requests parents to bring their children immediately to hospitals if they show disease symptoms. Chief Medical Officer of the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Ruwan Vijay Muni, says that a gradual decrease in the number of patients reported from the Colombo district has been observed. 3 more COVID-19 related deaths were reported from the country today. All of the victims were residents in Colombo 14 and 15. The Ministry of Health has taken measures to set up new centers to treat COVID-19 patients reported on a daily basis. Presently, between 500 to 600 cases are being reported daily. Minister of Health Pavitra Wanyarachi has focused attention to establish speedily such treatment centers for the patients. The minister has expressed opinion at the Action Evaluation Committee meeting at the auditorium of the Health Ministry today. In order to provide more treatment facilities to a greater number of patients, the hospitals capable of providing such facilities will be taken over by the Health Ministry and transformed into treatment centers. It has also been pointed out that roughly 14,000 PCR tests and around 3,000 antigen tests are being conducted covering the districts of Colombo, Gampaha and Kaluthara. A communique issued by the Ministry of Health says that Secretary to the Ministry, Major General Dr. Sanjeeva Munasinghe, has been instructed to provide infrastructure facilities including transport and necessary safety equipment to the health staff. State Minister Dr. Sudarshini Fernando Pulle informs the general public to intelligently inquire on the medicines identified by numerous patients as appropriate medications for the COVID-19 disease.
In the meantime, Deputy Director General of Health Services, Dr. Hemanta Herath, says that the proposed health protective guidelines for the reopening of airports in the country for tourists will ensure no further spread of the COVID-19 outbreak among the general community. He made these remarks during a media briefing held in Colombo today.
The reports about the arrangements at the airport, again, we have already declared that the repatriation process is now continuing and proposals are being now discussed to open the airport for different other categories, and at the moment still the guidelines are being prepared and this will be finalized very soon, and that will definitely ensure that there will be no leakage of the disease into the general community through the people coming from the airport, and these guidelines will be very soon published and it will be available to the public, and Health Ministry will take all necessary precautions to ensure that there will be no cases introduced into the country through this process.
The Deputy Director General also said that the health authorities have taken steps to mitigate the spread of the disease through minor sub-clusters reporting across the country stemmed from COVID clusters emerged in early October.
By now, we have in Sri Lanka over 34,000 cases have been reported, and majority of them are coming from the clusters erupted after early October, and at present most of the cases or case reporting from these clusters have been reduced, and the subsequent subclusters like the Colombo Municipal Council area are also now going down. We have observed minor small clusters all over the country in different parts in small numbers due to the constant movement of people from these high risk areas to low risk areas, and as a result, though we are reporting numbers in different parts of the country, the health authorities in those areas are taking the necessary action to control and identify those cases and then to trace the contacts and do the necessary control activities. However, the public is advised to take the maximum precautions as advised by the Health Department and the Ministry of Health to adhere to the health guidelines published by the Health Ministry.
Now, taking a look at the global situation regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Moderna Inc.'s COVID-19 vaccine appeared set for regulatory authorization this week after US Food and Drug Administration staff endorsed it as safe and effective in documents released yesterday.
One day after Americans began getting vaccinated against COVID-19, a second vaccine, this one from Moderna, is on track for FDA approval this week after U.S. Food and Drug Administration staff endorsed it as safe and effective in documents released Tuesday. Moderna could get the green light as early as Friday, according to the New York Times, making millions of doses available to Americans within days. Moderna's approval would follow FDA's granting of emergency use of Pfizer's vaccine and would help the United States fulfill its promise to inoculate 20 million people this month. After healthcare workers, nursing home residents are next in line, and many are eager to get their shots, like 76-year-old Katharina Maison.
I know that there could be side effects. I'm aware of that, but I'm also aware that there are often lasting side effects of having the coronavirus. I'd rather have the side effect, if anything, from the vaccine.
76-year-old Rosalind Curley said she's happy the vaccine is on its way, even though she might not be eligible because she's allergic to penicillin.
I can't understand people who don't want to take it. I would have it in a heartbeat. It's got to be better than the COVID. That's a nasty thing.
Health officials are hoping to spread that confidence to the greater public. As of now, many Americans remain skeptical. Only 61% of respondents in a recent Reuters Ipsos poll said they were open to getting vaccinated.
In the meantime, in France, on the one-year anniversary of COVID-19, first identified in China in December 2019, experts are still struggling to understand which patients are more likely to show persistent symptoms, often called long COVID.
Helen Sideropoulos had a thriving career as a project manager, but since contracting COVID-19 over 9 months ago, she now struggles to concentrate for long enough to read just one page of a novel. The Canadian-born businesswoman has lived in France for nearly 30 years and is now suffering from so-called long COVID. She's one of many calling for more awareness.
I was not in ICU. I was not intubated. I was not put in an artificial coma. I was only in the hospital for a week. And yet months later, I still can't go back to work, even though it's one of my deepest desires right now. And yes, people are not talking about us.
Studies estimate the long-lasting after effects of coronavirus may occur in 5 to 20% of cases. But 1 year on from the start of the pandemic, and some sufferers are saying not enough is being done. Helen is treated by Nicolas Barizien, a sports doctor who runs the rehabilitation unit in a Paris hospital.
On est obligé de faire, et en ce moment, un grand nombre de médecins en France.
Right now, lots of doctors in France and around the world are doing what we call a breakdown. We're trying to understand which signs go together and whether there are predictive factors that enable us to identify a long COVID. Because right now, I can't tell you who in France in this second wave is getting COVID and who gets long COVID.
Barizien says MRI scans on patients' hearts and brains show that the tissue itself is undamaged for most sufferers. So symptoms are down to a dysfunction in the body which is not well understood. Medical treatment has got better though, with much of it focusing on rehabilitation therapy.
Minister Dinesh Gunawardena reaffirmed the commitment of the government of Sri Lanka, led by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, to represent the interests of the global south through its neutral, non-aligned policy with the UN. Minister made these remarks while addressing an event held to mark the 65th anniversary of Sri Lanka's membership of the United Nations. The United Nations was established in Sri Lanka in 1952, and on December 14, 1955, Sri Lanka was admitted as a member state of the UN. The United Nations, in partnership with the government and people of Sri Lanka and through its 23 specialized agencies, funds and programs, has carried out numerous initiatives to ensure better living conditions for the nation. The UN Sri Lanka has cultivated broad and wide-ranging partnerships in the country to address a multitude of challenges, both in long-term development and during times of emergency. Marking the 65th anniversary, Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena met the United Nations Resident Coordinator Anna Singer and the heads of the UN agencies based in Colombo at the Foreign Ministry premises recently for the celebrations. State Minister Tharaka Balasurya and Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolimbage were also present at this occasion.
And working closely with the government institutions to enhance capacity in a number of areas, from census to data collection, to education, to governance, to gender-based violence, to labor laws, etc. Free education, an accessible school system with high rates of female literacy, and more recently, new and timely initiatives for the 21st century Sri Lanka, such as the Social Innovation Lab CITRA, to help us stay on the cutting edge at the latest technologies and ideas. And of course, the fantastic partnership between the UN and the government of Sri Lanka in the response in the COVID-19 response. This is just a snapshot, and I know I have left a lot out, but just to show the magnitude and the richness of the partners between the UN and the government of Sri Lanka. Looking ahead, I'm particularly glad to see Sri Lanka's ongoing commitment to the Sustainable Development Goal, which guides our collective aspiration for the next decade. And as we look to the future, at the important milestones of this 75th year of the UN, we at the UN are also looking inwardly at our own challenges and the areas, as you rightly said, sir, where we may have fallen short of the aspirations expressed by the UN Charter. The Secretary General has embarked on an ambitious reform agenda at the beginning of 2019 to ensure that we deliver in a more focused and robust ways. Similarly, this year, he also called on a decade of action to everyone and to every country and to every human being to place human rights at the center of our work as they ensure stability, solidarity, reducing human suffering and advancing sustainable development for a just and equitable world. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, Sri Lanka has a legacy of challenges yet to be addressed, as was articulated by the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, LLRC. Progress towards justice, reconciliation, reparation, sustaining peace and development will contribute to building a cohesive and even more prosperous society. As we turn mark of Sri Lankan's 65 years of membership in this unique organization today, let me reiterate the Secretary General plea to all member states to stand side by side by your UN in the effort to reinvigorate the collective moral force of humanity as expressed in the Charter of the United Nations and its affiliated treaties, framework and legal mechanism for the ultimate benefit of every one of us.
Sri Lanka carved a niche for itself as an active member of the international community in the United Nations. Building on its non-aligned policy, Sri Lanka played a key role as one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement and became a member of the Group of 77 in the UN, engaging in multilateral deliberations at the UN, representing the interests of the Global South. Government headed by His Excellency the President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who received a resounding mandate from the people of Sri Lanka for his vistas of prosperity and splendor, following last year's presidential election and this year's general election, is keen to continue Sri Lanka's excellent partnership with the United Nations, keeping in line with the provisions of the UN Charter, which enshrines the protection of sovereignty, territorial integrity of states, and non-interference in the domestic affairs. Much of the expectations of countries of the global south, including Sri Lanka, at the time of admission to the United Nations, still remain valid. In this regard, Sri Lanka appreciates the continued cooperation and assistance of the UN and its agencies in implementing the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development and the SDGs, and is currently focusing on them as priorities, most of it which had been even included for 21-29 budget to take a step forward. Sri Lanka commends the pivotal role played by the UN in fostering multilateral action and mobilizing global solidarity towards addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka is committed to working with the WHO in the collective efforts to fight this global challenge. Sri Lanka endorses and is committed to the state of the climate emergency announced by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres 2 days ago. Excellencies, I take this opportunity to felicitate the UN team in Colombo who are present today for their close cooperation and commitment and dedication. Sri Lanka. For our country, it is important to mention here that the key success for our mutual engagement lies in focusing on projects in line with the national priorities that reflects the needs of our people.
Meanwhile, trading at the Paliagoda Fish Market Complex has recommenced today after a lapse of 55 days. The market has been kept closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister Douglas Devananda has presided over the ceremony held in this connection. Around 50 businessmen have participated in today's reopening. Dealers have been arriving since the opening time of 2 o'clock in the morning to purchase and sell fish stocks. Only 78 out of the 150 established stalls of the fish trading complex were reopened under the first stage of the program. Minister Douglas Devananda said the remaining stalls will be reopened under the second stage. Presently, trading is being conducted in the vehicle yard as part of the trading complex is under repairs. The retail trading is scheduled to recommence once the repairs are completed.
His Eminence Archbishop of Colombo, Most Reverend Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, has commended the government, including the President and the Prime Minister, on the manner of providing relief to the families affected by the Easter Sunday terror attack by resolving their grievances. His Eminence made these remarks following a discussion on resolution of disputes pertaining to affected families and future development activities of churches subjected to attacks, held today with the participation of the Prime Minister. The meeting has taken place at the Temple Trees. The Prime Minister on this occasion has ordered the State Engineering Corporation to speedily complete the construction of 24 houses in Katua Pitia. These houses are to be provided to those affected by the Easter Sunday terror attack. In addition, 5 more houses are scheduled to be erected in Katua Pitia by the Urban Development Authority on behalf of the owners of these lands. The Prime Minister has also informed the relevant authorities to allocate 33 houses from a proposed housing complex of the UDA on behalf of 33 affected families currently living in houses around Colombo on rent basis. An agreement has also been reached to fulfill housing requirements of 11 families affected by the attack who are currently living scattered throughout the island, including Badula and Kandy. The Prime Minister has also instructed the Director General of Health Services to expand medical facilities being provided by the Sri Jayawardhanapura Hospital for the affected persons. The Prime Minister has also advised the relevant officials to complete the stalled constructions of the Katua Pitia Dhamma School at a cost of more than 60 million rupees of funds of the Ministry of Finance. He has also given instructions to the Sri Lankan Navy to utilize funds for the restoration of the Kochikade Church according to the plans. It has also been revealed at the meeting that although the previous government had promised to repair the Kochikade Church according to a new plan, it had failed to keep this promise. Reverend Father Lawrence Ramanayaka has presented to the Prime Minister a list of problems faced by the victimized families and the churches subjected to attacks. His Eminence Archbishop of Colombo, Most Reverend Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, said that they extend their gratitude to the government, including the President and the Prime Minister. He also thanks all those who have extended their support to resolve the grievances of the affected persons. His Eminence expresses hope that such disastrous events would not take place in the country in future and wishes that the government headed by the President will have the strength and courage to safeguard the people. MPs, ministers, ministry secretaries and heads of institutions have also taken part on the occasion.
Now, head of the Presidential Task Force for Economic Revival and Poverty Eradication, Basil Rajapaksa, has instructed public representatives and government officials today to give priority to the projects that provides more benefits to a majority of people when planning development programs according to budget proposals. He has reiterated that it is extremely important to prioritize rural livelihood development. Head of the task force, Basil Rajapaksa, was addressing the North Central Province Committee under the national program of Gama Samaga Pilisandarak Tulin Wada Samaga Yaligamata. The meeting was conducted at the auditorium of the North Central Provincial Council in Anuradhapura. He has also requested to speedily implement programs commenced prior to the year 2015 but not implemented during the previous regime. The meeting has also focused attention on problems pertaining to agriculture, irrigation and drinking water. Another factor that has come under discussion was the manner the fertilizer distribution methodology is being implemented. The head of Presidential Task Force has pointed out that there are adequate stocks of fertilizer in the country and only 35,000 metric tons out of the total required quantity of 65,000 metric tons have been imported. He added that farmers are unable to receive maximum benefits if they do not receive the required fertilizer stocks in time. It has been pointed out that a separate state minister has been appointed to deal with fertilizer issues. Chairman of the task force has requested farmers to directly contact this minister if they do not receive fertilizer at the required time. Public representatives participating in the meeting have pointed out the need to allocate water resources for cultivation purposes in the appropriate manner. It has also been mentioned that measures are being taken to reopen airports for foreign travellers from next January. As a pilot project in this connection, more than 4,000 tourists are scheduled to arrive in the island from the 26th of this month. Solutions have been proposed for common problems in the North Central Province. The other issues are to be dealt later on. Among those who have been attended the meeting included Ministers S.M. Chandrasena and State Ministers Duminda Disanayaka, Roshan Ranasinghe, Siripala Gamlat, Shehan Semasinghe, Professor Channa Jayasumana, North Central Province Governor Mahipala Herath, Southern Province Governor Willie Gamage, parliamentarians of the North Central Province, former provincial councillors, heads of local government institutions, political representatives in Anuradhapura and Polonnaru districts, and a large number of government officials. The Central Province meeting is scheduled to be conducted tomorrow.
Welcome back, and we continue with more stories here at home. The Madivela Western Urban Agricultural and Environmental Development Project was vested with the general public yesterday. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has presided over the ceremony held in this connection. A sum of 390 million rupees has been spent on the project. The development project got underway on the 21st of April this year, according to the Saubhagya Dakma policy statement of the government. The Agricultural and Environmental Development Project spans over an extent of 23 acres. The Prime Minister, in his capacity as the Minister of Urban Development and Housing, has instructed ministry officials to implement development projects of the country by successfully confronting the challenge of COVID-19. Accordingly, the project started amidst numerous difficulties during the period of the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to the commitment of those responsible of the project, it has become possible to complete construction within a relatively short period of 8 months. The project is comprised of a walking path and 1.5 kilometers, 2 cycle lanes, a children's playground, an outdoor exercising area with 8 novel features, and a vehicle yard to park 40 vehicles at once. The agricultural component of the project consists of 2 tanks which could irrigate cultivations in both Yala and Maha seasons. The Prime Minister's office says that this environmental project, which was implemented in the midst of the pandemic, could be identified as an excellent victory secured by the Urban Development Authority. The Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation and the Road Development Authority were in charge of the construction. The preliminary stage of the project, which has already been declared open, is now being implemented successfully. Under the initial stage, a paddy field is being cultivated using only carbonic fertilizer and indigenous varieties of paddy. The cultivation area is consisted of 44 plots of land. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa, State Ministers Dr. Nalaka Godaheva, Kanchana Vijayasekara and Lohan Ratwata, as well as other parliamentarians, have also attended the event. The Prime Minister has also inspected construction of the flyover linking Angampitiya 9th Lane and School Avenue, Navala yesterday. The Prime Minister has instructed officials of the Road Development Authority to expeditiously complete constructions using technological methods to the maximum extent and minimizing difficulties caused to the daily routine of the people.
In the meantime, China hosted the International Forum on Sharing Poverty Reduction Experience was held in Beijing in the last 2 days. More than 200 representatives took part in this forum. The forum was held with the use of Zoom video conferencing technology. Representatives from over 60 countries and regions as well as over 20 international organizations participated in the forum. After 8 years of continuous efforts, China, led by Chinese President Xi Jinping, has lifted all the rural poor under the current income standard out of poverty and removed all impoverished counties from its poverty list. Representing Sri Lanka, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, Dr. Nihal Jayatilaka briefed on the measures undertaken in Sri Lanka to achieve the poverty eradication objectives and measures taken against the challenges posed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in more local stories, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was presented with a copy of the magazine titled Communicate of the Nation, published in connection with the 95th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation at the Prime Minister's official residence in Vijayaram Mawatha, Colombo this morning. The Prime Minister has extended his best wishes to the national radio, which is engaged in its national endeavour without bowing down to commercial forces. An album with 95 songs titled Yuga Yuga to commemorate the event was also presented to the Prime Minister. Presentation of a hybrid variety of orchid flower developed at the Peradeni Botanical Garden and named as Dendrobium radio Ceylon flower was also handed over to the Prime Minister on this occasion today. Director General of the Department of National Botanical Gardens, Dr. Shalomi Krishnaraja, said that this was the first occasion a new orchid variety was named after an institution. The radio Ceylon was officially commenced on the 15th of December 1925 under the leadership of British Governor Hugh Clifford. Minister Keheliya Rambukwala, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, Visharada Jagat Vikramasinghe and Director General Chandrapal Liyanage has also participated on the occasion. Minister of Mass Media Keheliya Rambukwala has presided over a ceremony held in connection with the 95th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation at the corporation premises today.
In the meantime, Acting Director of the Office for Assessing Damages has agreed before the Presidential Commission inquiring into Easter attack today that the compensation paid on behalf of those killed or injured in the Easter attack was less than the compensation provided for victims in incidents that had occurred earlier. He also said that several groups, including former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, had intervened in instances of providing compensations in the Digana incident. Acting Director of the Office Assessing Damages, S.M. Badiuddin, has given evidence today. He said that compensation amounted to 1 million rupees had been paid for a person killed in the Easter attack. The witness also said that relevant action had been taken by the Foreign Affairs Ministry regarding 34 unidentified bodies of foreigners killed in the attack. He also said that 220 million rupees had been provided regarding Easter Sunday attack deaths submitted through 220 applications. He also said that compensation amounting to 81 million rupees had been provided on behalf of 506 persons injured in the Easter Sunday incidents.
Now, Wattala Magistrate Buddhika C. Ragala has ordered to cremate at state expense the bodies of 4 persons confirmed killed due to shooting during the confrontation in the Mahara prison. He has given the order upon investigation of a petition requesting an injunction to prevent the cremation according to COVID-19 health guidelines on 11 detainees killed in the incident. A brief report on the board of specialists appointed to conduct post-mortem inquiries of the dead prisoners were presented to the magistrate today. The report has revealed that 4 of the victims were killed due to shooting. Attorney at Law Nishara Jaratna, appearing on behalf of the Attorney General, has appeared at the court on behalf of the state. She has objected to handing over the bodies to relatives of the victims, as it has been confirmed that 4 of them were COVID-19 patients. Therefore, she has requested to issue an order to cremate the bodies according to the required procedures. The Board of Specialists in their report have pointed out that there was no need to exhume the 4 bodies, as the relevant samples have already been taken. Further hearings are scheduled to take place on the 18th of this month. And that's a wrap of tonight's Primetime News, and until we meet again next time, do take care and good night.
Good night.